All right, let's dive into a really fascinating story today. We're going to uncover the legend behind a very famous spot in Taipei, Treasure Hill. Now, you might know it as this cool hub for art and culture, but its origin story? It has nothing to do with paint and canvas. It's a story of survival, absolute desperation, and a miracle found in a hidden stone grotto. Wow, imagine someone telling you that the very air you're breathing could kill you. You know, this wasn't just some spooky campfire story. For the first immigrant settlers in 18th century Taiwan, this was their reality. They'd arrived in a land that was as full of promise as it was of peril. So let's really step into that untamed world. We're going to meet our main character, an immigrant named Afu, as he and his friends and family face this just daunting, almost impossible challenge of simply staying alive. Yeah, it's pretty hard to wrap your head around the fact that this area, Hukongshan, was once a rugged, wild frontier. I mean, a total world away from the Taipei we know today. These settlers, coming over from Fujian, were probably running from famine or poverty, basically betting everything they had on a fresh start. But what they found was a land of thick, overgrown forests, wild animals in danger just everywhere. But the thing they feared the most was something they couldn't even see: Zhongli. That was their name for this mysterious illness that they believed just rose up from the land itself, bringing these sudden, lethal fevers. Today, we'd probably guess it was malaria or some other disease from the wetlands, but for them, with no idea what caused it and no cure, it was a terrifying, unpredictable killer. So in this landscape of fear, a single chance moment leads to a discovery that is going to change, well, everything. Afu is about to stumble upon a sacred secret hidden right inside the stone itself. So the story goes that one day, Afu is out exploring the hills and he gets completely lost in this thick white mist. You can imagine the panic setting in, but then he hears it. This faint, almost imperceptible sound of chanting. A sacred sound in the middle of all this chaos, and it just pulls him forward like a beacon. He follows that sound, pushes aside a thick wall of reeds, and there it is, a hidden stone grotto. And inside, lit by this soft, natural light, is a rock formation shaped perfectly, and I mean perfectly, like the goddess of compassion, Guanyin. Can you even imagine the awe, finding the symbol of pure divine mercy in the heart of such an unforgiving place? He's just completely overwhelmed. He drops to his knees and makes this solemn promise. He prays for protection for his people, and he vows that he will guard this secret place for the rest of his days. And right there, this incredibly powerful bond is formed between a desperate man and the silent goddess made of stone. So for 3 years, things are okay. The settlers start to build a life, and they're clinging to this newfound hope. But then, that deadly miasma, the Zhongli, it comes back with a vengeance, and it's about to put their faith and their very lives to the ultimate test. The plague is just relentless. One after another, people fall sick with these terrible fevers. And for Afu, this crisis becomes deeply, horribly personal when his own brother collapses. His brother's life is just hanging by a thread, and you can feel the despair just washing over the entire community. At his absolute lowest point, Afu is just wandering the hills, totally lost in his grief, and he stumbles upon this serene old woman. She's dressed in simple white robes, and she's calmly gathering herbs that give off this really strange, pleasant smell. It's this beautiful image of life and healing, in total contrast to the death and decay all around him. The woman gives Afu the herbs, but she also gives him a very specific set of instructions. It's almost like a ritual. He has to use the sacred spring water from the Guanyin Grotto, which she calls dunshui, or cinnabar water. And, this is key, he has to administer the cure with a calm heart. It's this incredible blend of folk medicine and pure faith, where your intention is just as important as the ingredients. Now, this single act did way more than just cure a disease. It truly transformed the spirit of the people, and even the land itself. The ripple effects from this one moment are just massive, in ways no one could have possibly seen coming. Okay, so this timeline gives us a great recap of this whole journey, right? We've got the settlers' desperate struggle, Afu's incredible discovery, and the terrible plague. Now we're at the miracle cure that changes the game, and believe it or not, it actually paves the way for a second miracle, a miracle of peace. So Afu follows the instructions to the letter, and it works. It actually works. His brother's fever breaks, And the very first words he speaks are about a wonderful fragrance, the exact same scent as the herbs. And as the sick start to recover, one by one, hope finally returns to the whole community. But the Zhongli wasn't their only problem. As their settlement got bigger, violent fights started breaking out with the local indigenous tribes over things like hunting grounds and resources. So the land was still soaked in bloodshed. Healing the body wasn't enough. The community itself was still deeply wounded by conflict. So one night, they're on the brink of another huge battle, and suddenly a soft white light starts glowing from the stone Guanyin, and it covers both the settlers and the tribal warriors. And in that light, they all see the same vision: a mother weeping for her lost child. That universal, heartbreaking sorrow of loss. It just cut through all the anger. So the place they once called a land of miasma, a land of fear, sickness, and war, was completely transformed. Through these two miracles, it became a place of compassion. It was no longer defined by what it took from people, but by the hope, the healing, and the peace it gave back. So finally, let's look at how this incredible legend became a physical part of Taipei's landscape, how it created a legacy of faith and community that, amazingly, is still there to this day. Full of gratitude to the Guanyin that saved them, Afu and the other survivors did the most natural thing in the world. They built a small temple, right there, enclosing the sacred grotto. That humble little building, built from hope and stone, was the very beginning of the Treasure Hill Temple that you can go and see today. But years later, when Afu was an old man on his deathbed, he shared one last chilling detail of the story. The mysterious woman in white he'd met on that path all those years ago, well, her feet never actually touched the ground. And that was it, the final confirmation that she was no mortal woman, but Guanyin herself. So that brings us to today. Treasure Hill is now this vibrant, lively artist village, a place of creation and life. But the legend? Oh, the legend lives on. The local community, especially the older folks, they still believe that the spirit of that stone Guanyin is watching over them, just like she watched over those first desperate settlers all those centuries ago. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The places we see every day, the buildings, the parks, they're so often built on top of these incredible stories of hardship and hope. What legends might be hiding in the landmarks that you walk past, and what forgotten histories are just waiting to be discovered, maybe right in your own neighborhood?